You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Bible Guys. Today is Friday.
Man, we are in the book of Esther, and the queen is about to risk it all for the people she loves.
Esther chapter 5.
Ooh.
This is the moment in the book of Esther, and it is intense, and we're all wondering what's going to happen.
Talking about intense, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
We've been trying to figure out how to amp up the roll-in on our show.
Yeah, sure, because we don't have a jingle.
And so we're trying to put together a theme song. And
Yes.
this has been kind of fun. We've been going back to old TV shows.
Yeah, and
from our childhood.
Yes.
And singing theme songs.
Yes. Well, we haven't been singing them. I have been singing them.
Yeah. So I typed in and asked ChatGPT to help me write a theme song for the Bible Guys, a show about two guys who like to talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways. And I wanted to write the theme song to the tune of The Brady Bunch.
The Brady Bunch.
And this is what it gave us. And I think it's pretty amazing. So if you'd sing it, because you're the singer on this show.
Yeah, whatever.
And so let's have it.
Oh,
Get to it, Chris.
Here we go.
Ready?
Hopefully I can get this right.
Do-do-do-do.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not worried about the tune. You know, it's the fitting of the words.
Do-do-do-do-do.
Yeah. Oh, look at you. See, you're the singer.
You can do it.
It's not me.
You can do it.
It's
No,
you.
no. This is your moment.
All right, here we go.
Shine, shine. Maybe for such a time as this, Chris.
Oh, here it is. Okay, here we go. Here's a story of two Bible buddies who were reading through the Word most every day. One was funny, one was thoughtful and steady, and they had a lot to say. Dun, 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 dun. It's the story of a deeper mission to explore the truth and laugh along the way. And the Spirit brought them both into a podcast, and they were listening today.
That we're listening to.
Yeah, I messed it up. See,
that's okay.
that's what I was worried about. Okay,
there we go.
And the Spirit brought them both into a podcast that we're listening today. Dun, 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 dun. Here goes. Ready? From the lions to the walls of old Jericho, from the prophets to the cross and empty grave, they break it down with wisdom, wit, and laughter. Learning how the word still saves. The Bible Guys, dun, 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 the Bible Guys, dun, 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 dun. That's the way we became the Bible Guys. Dun, 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 dun. That's it.
That's awesome, Chris.
There it is.
You are so awesome.
No,
I think that should be it.
GPT. Oh, that's it. That wins.
That feels like the one.
The
I don't know.
Bible Guys. The Bible Guys. Literally from the 70s. It might have been from the 60s. I think it's 70s.
I don't know.
Early 70s.
Yeah,
My guess is 71.
Oh, that's so funny, man.
When was the first episode of the Brady Bunch aired? Oh, really?
It didn't come up and do it?
You're gonna do the I'm working thing?
Well, talking about...
I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again later.
Yeah.
Okay.
What does she call you? Have we talked about that lately?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Let's try it.
Yeah.
Hey, Siri, what's my name?
It's Chris Zarbaugh.
Oh, it didn't do it.
Ooh, she's getting rebellious. See? That's what happened, Vashti.
Hey, Siri, what have I asked you to call me?
Calling King Zarbaugh mobile.
Okay.
So she knows to call you King Zarbaugh.
Yeah.
But remember, Vashti lost her job over this.
Yeah,
right here.
That's right.
Not
Don't
doing
disrespect me, Siri. I'm writing a decree.
Yeah.
I'm banishing you.
Okay, well, talking about being in trouble with the king.
Ooh, there it is.
Yeah, Esther
Yes.
is where we're at, and we're in chapter 5. And here's what it says. On the third day of the fast, remember Mordecai and all the other Jews in Susa, and then Esther and her handmaids are all fasting and praying for 3 days, 3 nights. On the third day of the fast, Esther put on her royal robes and entered the inner court of the palace just across from the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her and held out the gold scepter to her. So Esther approached and touched the end of the scepter. Then the king asked her, "What do you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom."
Okay, wow.
Yeah, that ain't bad.
So in other words, she caught him in a really good mood. The favor of God right there.
63 provinces or something like that.
And by the way,
gave her.
the first episode of the Brady Bunch was 1969. I couldn't stand it. I had to look it up.
Okay, there you go.
All right.
So now you know. What do you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom. And Esther replied, if it please the king, let the king and Haman come today to a banquet I have prepared for the king. The king turned to his attendants and said, tell Haman to come quickly to a banquet, as Esther has requested. So the king and Haman went to Esther's banquet. And while they were drinking wine, the king said to Esther, now tell me what you really want. What is your request? I'll give it to you, even if it's half the kingdom. Esther replied, this is my request and deepest wish. If I have found favor with the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my request and do what I ask, please come with Haman tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for you, and then I'll explain what this is all about. Haman was a happy man as he left the banquet, but when he saw Mordecai sitting at the palace gate, not standing up or trembling nervously before him, Haman became furious. However, he restrained himself and went home. Then Haman gathered together his friends and Zeresh his wife and boasted to them about his great wealth and his many children. And he bragged about the honors the king had given him and how he had been promoted over all the other nobles and officials. Then Haman added, and that's not all. Queen Esther invited only me and the king himself to the banquet she had prepared for us. And she has invited me to dine with her and the king again tomorrow. Then he added, but this is all worth nothing as long as I see Mordecai the Jew just sitting there at the palace gate. So Haman's wife Zeresh and all his friends suggested, set up a sharpened pole that stands 75 feet tall. In the morning, ask the king to impale Mordecai on it. When this is done, you can go on your merry way to the banquet with the king. This pleased Haman, and he ordered the pole set up. That night, the king had trouble sleeping, so he ordered an attendant to bring the book of the history of his reign so it could be read to him. In those records, he discovered an account of how Mordecai had exposed the plot of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the eunuchs who guarded the door to the king's private quarters, and they had plotted to assassinate King Xerxes. What reward or recognition did we ever give Mordecai for this? The king asked. His attendants replied, nothing has been done for him. Who is that in the outer court? The king inquired. As it happened, Haman had just arrived in the outer court of the palace to ask the king to impale Mordecai on the pole he'd prepared. So the attendants replied to the king, Haman is out in the court. Bring him in, the king ordered. So Haman came in, and the king said, what should I do to honor a man who truly pleases me? Haman thought to himself, whom would the king wish to honor more than me? So he replied, if the king wishes to honor someone, he should bring out one of the king's own royal robes, as well as a horse that the king himself has ridden, one with a royal emblem on its head, and let the robes and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble officials, and let him see that the man whom the king wishes to honor is dressed in the king's robes and led through the city square on the king's horse. Have the officials shout as they go, this is what the king does for someone who he wishes to honor. Excellent, the king said to Haman. Quick, take the robes and my horse and do just as you have said for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the gate of the palace. Leave out nothing you've suggested. So Haman took the robes and put them on Mordecai, placed him on the king's own horse, and led him through the city square, shouting, this is what the king does for someone he wishes to honor.
Unbelievable.
Afterward, Mordecai returned to the palace gate, but Haman hurried home dejected and completely humiliated. When Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends what had happened, his wise advisors and his wife said, since Mordecai, this man who has humiliated you, is of Jewish birth, you will never succeed in your plans against him. It will be fatal to continue opposing him. While they were still talking, the king's eunuchs arrived and quickly took Haman to the banquet Esther had prepared.
Oh, man. So chapters 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And guess what? They are building and building and building. It is an unbelievable thing. And I love how chapter 6 begins and says, that night the king had trouble sleeping, so he ordered an attendant to bring him every book of history of his reign so it could be read to him. And those recordings he discovered an account how Mordecai had exposed the plot of his assassination. Yeah. So in other words, what I'm saying is this, is that God somehow... and it doesn't say so. It does not say so. But I have to believe that this is a reflection of everything that we've ever read in the Old Testament. Remember how God hardened Pharaoh's heart with Moses? Yeah. Remember? Yep. And then and all of a sudden the mood can be changed by the influence of God. The God of Egypt, when Joseph was stood before him, he was troubled because of a dream, right?
The Pharaoh of Egypt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. What did I say?
The God.
The God of Egypt.
Virtually the same.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So the Pharaoh of Egypt was troubled because of a dream. So Esther walks in front of the king in chapter 5, and not only is she worried about losing her life, but then the opposite extreme happens. I have to believe that's the favor of God.
Yes.
It doesn't 100%. Say. It doesn't say so. Right? But I have to believe that's a
Well, they
favorite.
had been fasting and praying,
Yes.
seeking God for 3 days and 3 nights, and it was at the end of that time
Yes.
that these things began to unfold.
And then all of a sudden we have the 75-foot pole that's going to be set up that Haman's wanting to impale Mordecai on. And all of a sudden, coincidentally, quote unquote, the king has trouble sleeping, right? And then in somehow, some way, he orders history records to be read. And then coincidentally, they read about Mordecai and he goes, we need to honor this man. I forgot. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
I need to honor this man. So all of this is orchestrated by God, right, behind the scenes. And who would have ever thought that it would play out this way, right?
Yeah, and Haman's like, he goes home, hey, I have the most kids, and I've got the most money and so much influence. I'm so powerful. He's thumping his chest in front of his family. He said, but I'm never going to be happy as long as that one guy
Right.
never bows down to me.
Well, he says all of this is nothing
It's nothing, right?
Yeah.
He's the most powerful, second most powerful man in the world.
in the world.
And he's like pouting over the fact that this one guy doesn't show him respect.
Right.
And it means nothing to me. All the rest is just horrible. I might as well just not even go outside anymore, right? He's just pitching a fit about this. And so he asks, so what should I do? What should I do about it? And they're like, set up a pole, right? And have him executed. Man, that's going to be so awesome. 75 feet high. That must have been on a wall somewhere or on a top of a building, very prominent, very high. He wanted everybody to see Mordecai suffer.
Oh, yeah. 75 feet.
What a horrible way
That's
to die.
7.5 stories.
Yeah. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah, it had to have been. And by the way, because he's the second most powerful man in the world, he can do whatever he wants.
So let me read this note. This may
sure.
be the most powerful note we've read in the Life Application Bible for a while.
Oh, yeah. Is it about Haman?
For verse 9. Hatred and bitterness are like weeds with long roots that grow in the heart and corrupt all of life. Haman was so consumed with hatred toward Mordecai that he could not even enjoy the honor of being invited to Esther's party. Hebrews 12:15 warns us to watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you, corrupting many. Don't let hatred and its resulting bitterness build up in your heart. Like Haman, you will find it backfiring against you. If the mere mention of someone's name provokes you to anger, confess your bitterness as sin. Ignoring bitterness, hiding it from others, or making superficial changes in behavior is not enough. If bitterness isn't completely removed, it will grow back, making matters worse.
Yeah.
That's what that Hebrews verse says, talk about that root of bitterness.
Yes. And by the way, that is that's a practical tell. If you mention somebody's name and then immediately
you're
you
mad
feel
about it.
anger or hatred, that's a problem.
Yeah, you still have bitterness in it, and it's going to catch up, it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
So Hebrews says it's like a root, and it's a poisonous root, and it grows down, and then the vine grows up and kills the tree. And we were in Costa Rica a number of years ago, and they took us to this place where these vines were everywhere through the trees, but then they showed us how the vines will interact and totally wrap around a tree, and then they begin to grow together. And what happens is the vines push all their leaves up above to the top of the canopy and then spread their leaves over top of the trees and kill all the trees. And then the vines aren't strong enough to make it to the top of the canopy by themselves. They have to climb the tree. Then they completely surround the tree. And so there were trees that 5 of me and you could not hold hands and reach all the way around that weren't the actual trees.
Wow.
They were the vines that had grown together and killed the dead tree. And we walked inside of a tree that was as big as this room multiple times, where the tree was completely dead. And it was this vine.
So it was like a hollow tree.
Yeah. Well, the tree was gone. It was
Wow.
just those giant vines that had grown together and had replaced
Where
the
a tree once was.
Yeah. But one of the guides that we were with, he took me over and he showed me, he said, this is the beginning of that. And he just pulled one of those little vines out of the ground. He said, that one won't kill this tree. Right. And it was just as easy as pulling it out of the ground. But if you let it go, it eventually completely replaces who you really are.
Right.
That's it. Right now, I've got some wild grapevines. I have some woods on the back of my yard.
Yeah.
And I have some wild grapevines that are growing up, and that they're doing the same thing. They're growing up to the top and starting to build canopy. So I had to go out and cut them all. I got my chainsaw out and cut them all out. We've been hauling them out of the trees, and because that little root, it's easy when it's little to get rid of it.
Right.
And yet it seems so important to us. It's the only thing you think of. He had all the advantages of the most powerful man in the kingdom who wasn't the king.
Right.
He had everything, but that little root winds up costing him everything.
So before I go on about the hilarity of Haman having to do this for Mordecai, because we got to get to that.
I love that.
Yeah.
God has a great sense of humor.
Yes. So let's go back to the idea of the bitterness you were talking about. Don't want to brush that off. God says that bitterness and forgiveness, right? Letting go of bitterness, which is forgiveness, is not for the other person. It's for us.
Yeah.
Right. So all Haman would have had to have done is, decide to not hang on to bitterness to Mordecai. And guess what? That would have affected who more than anybody else? It would have affected Haman. Right? Haman is so plagued by bitterness that he can't enjoy anything in life, even as he's bragging and even as he's listing everything that he's listing. He's saying, "I can't enjoy it because of bitterness." And if he would have let go of bitterness, then he could have, obviously enjoyed everything he just talked about.
Right.
And so all that to say, bitterness is the thing that we need to get rid of because it hurts us. We think it's hurting the other person, but it's actually us who suffers. So that's why Jesus says it's a command to forgive, because it's not for the other person, it's for you.
Right.
And when you forgive, you're the only one that benefits.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, obviously the other person benefits of, being on the receiving end of forgiveness, but the person that's affected the most is you.
Right.
Because you're letting go of your bitterness and hatred.
You're right.
Yep.
You're right. That's really powerful.
Yep. So let's get back to this.
I'll say one more thing.
Yeah.
For me, and I've told my story before, so a lot of abuse and difficulty in my early childhood. And God rescued my mom and I from that. All that. But I dealt with abandonment and a lot of those memories for many, many years. And I think that the forgiveness for me, the discovery of what real forgiveness was, because I always felt like forgiveness meant you're kind of saying, okay, it doesn't matter. And it does matter. It breaks God's heart. Right? When people abuse people or whatever. That's not it. It's when you finally come to the point where, Romans chapter 12 says, don't pay back evil for evil, pay back evil with good, because God says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord, I will repay.
Right.
And that was the day when I had to confront, my father this way. I realized on that day, I did not need to be the judge and executioner.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I did was say, okay, God, you repay him, not me.
Right.
And on that day, it wasn't that I said it was okay. It was that I was okay with God being the judge, not me.
Right.
And buddy, I'm telling you, I felt completely free from that point on, where when you just release your right to prosecute and you go, okay, you do it. And God did his thing.
Because that's what God asks of us.
Yeah.
For him to be the judge.
Right. Let me be the judge.
Yeah.
And when that's the extent I think that God requires forgiveness from us. It's not that I have to say it's okay. It's not that I have to decide we're going to have this extensive friendship or relationship or give access. None of those things. It's just, God, I'm not in control. You are. You bring the judgment necessary. Yeah. And I'm going to go on with my life. I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm going to, so those things come up. I think about those things, but I'm not trying to figure out how to maneuver and manipulate. Whereas in my mind, I'd always thought, he broke my mom's nose 3 times. He broke her jaw twice. He broke her ribs. He ran us over the car. He did so many horrible things. And I always thought, if I ever meet him, I'm going to beat him up. Mm-hmm. And then the day, because I went from 8 years old to 40-something years old before I met him again. And the day I opened up the door, I was thinking, I'm going to beat him up. I opened up the door, and it was an old man.
Yeah.
And God just washed over me and go, you're not the judge, and this isn't any of your business, right? So I just kind of let it go over those next couple of days. It was a big one. So that's a big thing. Anyways, yeah. So that might be the message for you today is bitterness is a root, and it's poisonous, and it will consume you, and you won't even be the same person if you let it grow. Or you've got to say, okay, God, you're the one that's in control. I'm trusting you. Yeah. And you be the judge, not me.
And it's a pretty tall order for somebody who's hung on to bitterness for years.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because the offenses are life-changing in most cases, right? People who hang on to bitterness for 10 years, in most cases, unless you're just a petty person, it's because this person has offended you and affected your life in a very great way. And so I know people very, 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 very close to me who here it is years and years later, they can't even say a name of somebody without feeling complete anger.
Yeah.
But
it is possible.
It is possible
to be free from that.
Yes.
When you finally realize you're not saying it's okay. You're just saying God's the judge and executioner.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so let's shift over to Haman.
This is one of the best things, man. God is so funny.
Yes.
And so Haman comes walking into the courtyard just as the king is like, what have we done for Mordecai? Nothing. I should send somebody to go do something good. Who's out in the courtyard right now? Mordecai is. Hey, Mordecai.
Yeah.
I mean, not Mordecai. Haman. Hey, Haman.
Yeah,
Right? Come in.
yeah.
It's so funny.
And I love how Haman puts together the most extravagant display of honor, thinking that it's for himself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's for me.
Yeah.
Oh, who else would he want to honor
Yeah,
except me?
yeah.
Oh, you should give him a robe and a ring.
A king's robe.
Put him on your horse. Have a noble lead him through and shout, hey, everybody, this is what the king does for the people who do good for him.
Yes. And then he says, leave nothing out. Leave nothing out. So Haman has to do it. So here he is. Can you even imagine? The person that you were planning on killing? You're like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to put this guy on a pole. Yeah. And instead, you find yourself walking through the city, and you're the one leading the horse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the second most powerful command. So I have to believe that Mordecai probably sees this as a supernatural turn of events.
Yeah. How in the world? Yeah.
How in the world did we go from this to that?
Yeah.
And in fact, he was honored in such a way that even Haman's wife said, you're going to have a problem going up against this guy. Right?
Yeah.
So his wife's even saying, like, do you realize what you have done to yourself? Right? You've let him through the streets, and you've honored him in such a way that if now your petty, genocide order goes through, you're never going to be able to take Mordecai down because now what you've done.
Right. She's like, hey, we should back off.
Right.
We should. This is not a good thing.
Right. Yeah, that's an incredible thing.
I love it, man. This is one of the best turns of events in the whole Bible. What a surprise! Because I mean, we're all the way to chapter 6 before this happens. There's no way this was going to happen in chapter 3 or 4.
Yeah.
As we're reading through, this is just bad news. This genocidal maniac now is out there. This is what the king does for someone he wishes to honor, right? Dragging a horse through the streets.
I have to believe that even the people who've watched the VeggieTales and know the story didn't quite understand all the details like this, right?
Right.
Like they didn't quite understand it.
Really? You think some of the details got left out in the VeggieTales show?
Yeah, for sure. But by the way, those are the best. Do you remember Larry? Silly Songs with Larry.
Yes.
Part of the show where Larry comes out and sings a silly song. Right. Sorry, I'm showing my age.
Yes.
But anyway, all that to say, like, this is an epic unfolding. And so because today's Friday, we have to wait until Monday in order to pick up with the story. Yeah. So people are going to have a cliffhanger who don't know the details.
Big time cliffhanger.
Yes, but it turns out...
I wonder how it turns out.
Well, it's going to be epic.
Yeah. You're going to be glad you tuned back in.
That's right. That's right.
Don't miss it.
So hopefully we will see you then next time on the Baba Guys.